You ever wake up and realize everything you thought was permanent can disappear in 4 hours? My name is Marcus, and on November 3rd, 2019, I watched my entire life turn to ash while I stood in a Walmart parking lot in my boxer shorts and a t-shirt that smelled like smoke and failure. Let me take you back to the beginning, because the fire didn't just destroy my house. It destroyed the carefully constructed lie I'd been living for 38 years. I was the guy who had it all figured out. A 3-bedroom ranch in suburban Portland, Oregon. A wife, Rachel, who smiled in all our Christmas cards. 2 kids, Emma, 12, and Daniel, 9. I worked at an insurance company. The irony of that will hit you in a minute. I made decent money. Not rich, but comfortable. We had a trampoline in the backyard. We went to Disneyland once. We were fine. But here's what nobody tells you about fine, it's flammable. The night of the fire, I remember the smell first. Not smoke. Burnt plastic. That chemical, toxic stench that gets into your sinuses and stays there. I woke up to Rachel shaking me, her voice high and panicked, and when I opened my eyes, the hallway was glowing orange through the crack under our bedroom door. I can still feel the heat of that doorknob. The way my palm blistered instantly when I touched it. The sound Emma made when I grabbed her from her room, not a scream, just this small, confused whimper. Daniel wouldn't wake up. I had to carry him, and he was so heavy, heavier than I remembered, and Rachel was behind me yelling something I couldn't hear over the roar. We got out. That's what matters, right? We got out. We stood in that parking lot. The Walmart stayed open 24 hours back then, because we had nowhere else to go at 2:47 in the morning. The fire trucks came. The neighbors came. Someone gave us bottled water and a blanket that smelled like dog. Emma was crying. Daniel just stared at nothing. Rachel wouldn't look at me. And that's when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But when everything else is gone, you answer the phone. Mr. Holloway? This is Detective Patricia Vance with the Portland Fire Investigation Unit. We need you to stay where you are. Don't leave the scene. My stomach dropped. What? Why? The fire started in your garage, Mr. Holloway. We found accelerants. This wasn't an accident. I looked at Rachel. She was already looking at me, and in her eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before. Doubt. Marcus, she said quietly, what did you do? I hadn't done anything. But here's the thing about crisis. It reveals what was already there. The cracks you pretended didn't exist. The distance you ignored. The resentment that built up so slowly you didn't notice it was suffocating you both. I didn't. I started. Don't, she cut me off. Just don't. The detective arrived 20 minutes later. She was in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, eyes that had seen too much to be impressed by anything. She asked me about enemies, debts, affairs, business dealings. I had none of those things. I was boring. I was safe. I was fine. But the way she looked at me, I could tell she didn't believe me. They kept us there for 6 hours. 6 hours in a Walmart parking lot while the sun came up and revealed the full extent of what we'd lost. The house was a black skeleton. The kids' bikes were melted sculptures in the driveway. Rachel's garden, she'd spent 3 years on that garden, was buried under debris and foam. When they finally let us go, we had nowhere to go. Rachel's sister lived in Seattle. She said we could stay there for a few days. Emma cried the whole drive north. Daniel didn't say a word. And Rachel sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, her jaw clenched so tight I thought her teeth might crack. I wanted to reach for her hand. I didn't. Because somewhere between the fire and the parking lot and the detective's questions, something had broken that had nothing to do with the house. And then I discovered something that made the fire look like a mercy. Let me tell you exactly what happened in the weeks before the fire, because context matters when your life falls apart. Rachel and I had been married for 14 years. 14 years of what I thought was partnership. But looking back now, with the clarity that only complete destruction brings, I realize we'd been roommates for at least 5 of those years. Polite strangers who shared a mortgage and a last name. The problems started small. They always do. 3 years before the fire, I got passed over for a promotion at work. Regional manager position. I'd been grooming myself for it for 2 years, extra hours, weekend projects, kissing ass at company barbecues. They gave it to Derek Chin, a guy 10 years younger who'd been there half as long. "You're too comfortable here, Marcus," my boss told me in his office that smelled like coffee and pity. "Derek has hunger. You have stability." Stability. Like it was a disease. I went home that night and told Rachel. She was making dinner, spaghetti. I remember the smell of garlic and tomato sauce. She didn't even turn around from the stove. "Well," she said, stirring, "maybe it's a sign you should look for something else." Not, "I'm sorry." Not their loss. Just practical Rachel. Always practical. "I've been there 12 years, I said. My voice sounded thin even to my own ears. Exactly. Maybe that's the problem. Something hardened in my chest that night. Something small and cold that I told myself didn't matter. But it did. I stopped talking to her about work. Then I stopped talking to her about anything that mattered. We talked about the kids' schedules, the broken dishwasher, whether we needed more milk. Surface things. Safe things. And Rachel? She retreated into her garden. Spent hours out there with her hands in the dirt, planting things that would bloom and die and bloom again. She joined a book club. Started going to yoga 3 times a week. Made friends I never met. We were drifting, and neither of us cared enough to swim back. The worst part? I thought this was normal. I thought all marriages eventually settled into this comfortable numbness. My parents had lived this way. My friends seemed to live this way. You just existed next to each other until the kids grew up and you could finally admit you had nothing left to say. Emma noticed. Kids always notice. One night, maybe 6 months before the fire, she came into the living room where I was watching TV, something mindless, I don't even remember what. "Dad?" She stood in the doorway in her pajamas, holding her stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was 3. "Yeah, Em. Are you and Mom gonna get divorced?" The question hit me like cold water. "What?" "No. Why would you ask that?" She shrugged, small shoulders rising and falling. "You don't talk anymore. And when you do, Mom looks sad. We're fine, sweetheart. Sometimes adults just get busy." She looked at me with those 2 wise 12-year-old eyes. That's what Melissa's parents said before they split up. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said what every coward says. "Go to bed, Emma. Everything's fine." She left. And I sat there in the blue glow of the television, feeling the weight of that word again. Fine. The night of the fire, I'd gone to bed angry. We'd had a fight, not even a real fight, just one of those tense, whispered arguments in the kitchen after the kids went to sleep. "You forgot Emma's parent-teacher conference," Rachel said, loading the dishwasher with more force than necessary. "I had a meeting." "You always have a meeting, Marcus. You're never here." "I work to pay for this house, Rachel. This life. I thought that's what you wanted." She stopped, turned to look at me, and for a second, I saw something break in her face. Something fragile and desperate. "I wanted a partner," she said quietly. "I got a paycheck with a pulse." I should have said something. Apologized. Reached for her. Something. Instead, I said, "I'm tired. I'm going to bed." And 6 hours later, our house was on fire. The detective's words kept replaying in my mind as we drove to Seattle. "We found accelerants. This wasn't an accident. Who would do this? Who hated me enough to destroy everything?" And then, sitting in Rachel's sister's cramped guest room at 4 a.m. while my family slept, I got a text from an unknown number. "You took everything from me. Now you know how it feels." My hands started shaking. Because suddenly, I knew exactly who had set that fire. And I thought I might deserve it. The text message glowed in the darkness like an accusation. I stared at it until my eyes burned, trying to make sense of something I already understood. The number was blocked, but I didn't need caller ID. I knew who it was. Derek Chen's brother, Jason. Let me explain what I did. What I told myself was justified at the time. 2 years before the fire, right around when I got passed over for that promotion, Jason Chen applied for a position in our department. Entry-level claims adjuster. He was 23, fresh out of community college, eager in that way that made me feel old and bitter. He came to me for advice during his probation period. "Mr. Holloway, how do you handle the difficult claims? The ones where you know the person is lying. I was having a bad day, bad month, bad year. Rachel had just told me she was going to her mother's for a week because she needed space. Emma had stopped talking to me about anything real. Daniel had started therapy for anxiety. And I was still in the same position I'd been in for 8 years, watching younger people leapfrog over me. Jason had Derek's same earnest face, the same irritating optimism. You deny them, I told him flatly. You find the clause, the loophole, the technicality, and you deny them. That's the job. He looked uncomfortable. Even when they really need it? Especially then. Because those are the ones who will sue if you give them an inch. It was cynical. It was cold. But it was true in the ugliest way. Jason didn't last long after that. He made a mistake, approved a claim that should have been flagged for further investigation. The claimant turned out to be running an elaborate fraud scheme. Cost the company $200,000. I could have covered for him. Could have said it was a training issue, that I should have caught it. But I didn't. I went to management. Showed them the paper trail. Made it clear that Jason had ignored protocol, ignored my guidance, made a rookie mistake that cost us significantly. They fired him within a week. Derek confronted me in the parking lot the day it happened. His face was red, his voice shaking with rage. He looked up to you, Derek said. He trusted you. He made a bad call. That's not on me. You threw him under the bus because you're bitter about your own failures, Marcus. You're a small, petty man who tears other people down because you can't build yourself up. His words hit something raw. I got in his face, close enough to smell his coffee breath. Your brother was incompetent. Maybe it runs in the family. Derek's jaw clenched. You're gonna regret this. Is that a threat? No, it's a fact. Karma's real, Marcus. And you've got a lot coming. He walked away. I told myself I didn't care. But Jason never found another job in insurance. I heard through the office gossip that he'd burned through his savings, fell into depression, ended up moving back in with his parents at 24. His girlfriend left him. He developed a drinking problem. And I told myself it wasn't my fault. He made the mistake. I just reported it. That's business. That's life. Now, sitting in that guest room with my family sleeping around me and my entire life reduced to 3 garbage bags of donated clothes, I understood. Jason had burned down my house. I should have called the police. Should have forwarded the text to Detective Vance immediately. Instead, I sat there feeling the weight of what I'd done crush down on my chest until I couldn't breathe. Rachel found me in the morning, still sitting in the same position, phone in hand. Did you sleep at all? She asked. Her voice was careful, distant. No. She sat on the edge of the bed, keeping space between us. Marcus, we need to talk about what happens next. I know who started the fire. She went still. What? Jason Chin. Derek's brother. The guy I couldn't finish. The guy you what? So I told her. All of it. The promotion, the bitterness, Jason's firing, my role in destroying his life. I told her because I had nothing left to lose, and confession felt like the only currency I had left. When I finished, Rachel stood up slowly. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. You did that? You deliberately ruined someone's career because you were, what? Jealous. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Marcus? Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you destroyed a kid's life out of spite. He made a mistake. So did you. Her voice cracked. But nobody burned your life down for it. You just got to keep going, keep pretending you were a good person while you crushed someone beneath you. Emma appeared in the doorway, eyes wide. Mom? Rachel wiped her face quickly. Go back to bed, baby. But Emma had heard enough. I could see it in the way she looked at me. Like she was seeing someone she didn't recognize. Rachel turned back to me. I can't do this anymore. Rachel. I mean it. I'm done. We're done. And in that moment, watching my wife walk away, I realized the fire had only destroyed the structure. This was the real collapse. Rachel filed for separation 3 days later. Not divorce. Not yet. But separation. Legal, formal, documented. She took the kids to her sister's place in Seattle permanently. I got supervised visitation every other weekend. Like I was dangerous. Like I was the villain. Maybe I was. The insurance company put me on administrative leave while they investigated the incident. Corporate speak for, "We're covering our ass until we figure out if you're a liability." My paycheck stopped. My health insurance hung by a thread. I had no house, no family, no job, and $900 in my checking account. I stayed with my buddy from college, Tyler, in his basement in Beaverton. The kind of basement where the ceiling was too low and the carpet smelled like mildew and regret. Tyler was divorced, worked nights at a warehouse, and spent his days playing video games and pretending his life hadn't fallen apart 6 years earlier. "You're living my life now," he said one night, passing me a beer. "Welcome to rock bottom." Population, us. I didn't have the energy to disagree. Detective Vance called me weekly. They'd tracked Jason Chen to an apartment in Vancouver, Washington, but he disappeared before they could bring him in. No evidence that would hold up in court. No confession. Just my suspicion and that text message, which he'd sent from a burner phone they couldn't trace. "He'll surface eventually," Vance said. "They always do." But I didn't care anymore. Let him hide. Let him disappear. What difference did it make? My house was gone. My family was gone. My reputation was destroyed. The office gossip had spread like wildfire once people found out about Jason. Suddenly, I was the guy who'd ruined someone's life. The corporate asshole who got what he deserved. And the worst part? They weren't wrong. For weeks after the fire, I hit my real bottom. I was walking through downtown Portland, killing time between rejection emails from job applications, when I saw Derek Chen coming out of a coffee shop. He saw me at the same moment. We stood there on the sidewalk, 5 feet apart, while people flowed around us like water around stones. "Marcus," he said flatly. "Derek." Silence. Heavy and suffocating. Then Derek spoke, and his words cut deeper than anything else could have. "My brother's in rehab. 3rd attempt. He tried to kill himself 2 months before your fire. Did you know that?" The air left my lungs. "He wrote a note blaming you. Blaming himself. Blaming everyone." My parents found him in the bathroom with a bottle of pills and a bottle of vodka. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. We got him to the hospital in time. Barely. And when he woke up, you know what he said? He said, "I just wanted him to feel what I feel. Just for one day." Derek's voice was shaking now, tears streaming down his face in the middle of the crowded street. "He set your fire, Marcus." I know he did. And I should hate him for it. I should report him. But I can't. Because you know what? Part of me is glad he did it. Those words, "part of me is glad he did it," they should have made me angry. Should have made me defensive. Instead, they broke something open inside me. "Derek, don't." He held up his hand. "Don't apologize. Don't explain. Don't make excuses. Just live with it. Live with knowing what you did to him. What it cost. Maybe that's punishment enough." He walked away. And I stood there on that sidewalk, people pushing past me, annoyed at the obstacle I'd become, and I had a moment of perfect, terrible clarity. I could keep going like this. Keep being the victim. Keep blaming Jason, blaming Derek, blaming Rachel, blaming everyone but myself for the choices I'd made. Or I could stop. I pulled out my phone, stared at it for a long time. Then I called Detective Vance. "I want to drop the charges," I said. "Mr. Holloway, we haven't even filed charges yet." "Then don't. I know who did it. I know why. And I'm not pressing charges. It's over." That's not how this works. It's how it works for me. I'm done. I hung up. Then I scrolled through my contacts until I found Rachel's number. My thumb hovered over her name for what felt like hours. Finally, I typed, "You were right. About everything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She didn't respond. But for the first time since the fire, I felt like I could breathe. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. Not even close. But because I'd finally stopped running from the truth. I destroyed Jason Chen's life because I was bitter, small, and cruel. The fire didn't make me a victim. It made me accountable. And now I had to figure out what the hell to do with that. I walked back to Tyler's basement, sat on the musty couch, and for the first time in 4 weeks, I didn't drink myself to sleep. I just sat there in the silence, feeling the full weight of what I'd lost. and what I'd done to deserve it. The first step toward rebuilding started in the most pathetic place possible, a temp agency in a strip mall between a nail salon and a pawn shop. The woman behind the desk was named Brenda. She had reading glasses on a chain and the exhausted patience of someone who'd heard every sob story twice. Work history, she asked without looking up. 12 years in insurance. Claims adjuster, senior level. Why'd you leave? I could have lied. Could have made up something clean and professional. But something about Brenda's blunt honesty made me want to match it. My house burned down. The fire was arson. I knew who did it and why. I destroyed his life first, so he destroyed mine. My wife left me. My company put me on leave. I have no references who'll speak well of me. I have $900 and a basement couch. Brenda finally looked up. Really looked at me. Well, she said after a long moment, at least you're honest. She typed something into her computer. I've got warehouse work. Night shift. Minimum wage. You'd be moving boxes, loading trucks. It's hard, it's mindless, and it'll hurt your back. You interested? Pride would have said no. The old Marcus would have said he was overqualified, that he had a degree, that he'd worked in an office for over a decade. But the old Marcus had burned up with everything else. When do I start? Tonight. 10 p.m. Don't be late. I worked that first shift like my life depended on it. Because it did. The warehouse was massive, cold, and loud. The other workers were mostly young guys, immigrants, people working 2 jobs to make rent. Nobody cared about my story. Nobody asked questions. We just moved boxes from point A to point B while fluorescent lights hummed overhead and the radio played the same 15 songs on loop. My body screamed. My hands blistered. My back felt like it might snap in half. And it was the most honest work I'd done in years. I came back the next night. And the next. And the next. Tyler didn't say much when I left at 9:30 p.m. and came back at 7 a.m. smelling like sweat and cardboard. He just made extra coffee and left it in the pot for me. You're doing better than I did, he said one morning. How do you figure? When my wife left, I gave up for 2 years. You gave up for a month. That's progress. It was a low bar, but I'd take it. After 2 weeks, my supervisor, a guy named Luis who was maybe 25 and had the quiet authority of someone who'd earned his position, pulled me aside. You're fast, he said. Faster than guys half your age. Why? Trying to outrun my thoughts, I said. He laughed. Doesn't work, does it? Not really. Yeah, but keep trying anyway. I'm putting you on the loading dock. Pays $1 more an hour. $1. $32 a week. After taxes, maybe 25. I felt like I'd won the lottery. I started putting that extra money aside. Not for anything specific. Just because saving felt like forward motion. Like building something, even if I didn't know what yet. 3 weeks into the job, I got an email from Rachel's lawyer. Formal. Cold. Outlining terms for supervised visitation, temporary support payments, division of the insurance payout from the house. The insurance payout. I'd forgotten about that. Our house was insured for $350,000. After the mortgage was paid off, we'd have about $160,000 left. Split 2 ways, $80,000 each. $80,000. It felt obscene. Like profiting from my own destruction. I stared at that email for hours. Then I did something I didn't plan. I called a number I'd found 3 days earlier through some Google stalking. A rehab facility in Salem. Hi, I said when someone answered. I'm looking for information about a patient. Jason Chin. I'm not family, but I'd like to. I'd like to help with his bills. The woman on the phone was quiet. I can't confirm or deny anyone's presence here due to HIPAA. But if you'd like to make a donation to someone's account, I can take that information. How much does a month cost there? Our 30-day program is $12,000. I did the math. My half of the insurance money could cover almost 7 months. I'd like to make an anonymous payment, I said. For Jason Chin. $50,000. The woman paused. Sir, that's a significant amount. I know. Can you do it? Yes, but... Then do it. Don't tell him who it's from. Just make sure he can stay as long as he needs. I hung up before she could ask questions. Then I sat there in Tyler's basement, shaking, wondering if I just made the stupidest decision of my life or the first good one in years. $30,000 left. Enough to start over. Not much, but something. I opened my laptop and started looking at apartments. Small ones. Cheap ones. The kind where you could hear your neighbors and the heat barely worked. The kind where I deserved to be. For the first time since the fire, I felt like I was walking towards something instead of running away. It wasn't redemption. Not even close. But it was movement. And movement was all I had. 6 months passed like water through clenched fists. I found an apartment in East Portland. 500 square feet, stained carpet, a radiator that clanked like it had emphysema. The building smelled like old curry and cigarettes, and my neighbors fought loud enough that I learned everyone's business whether I wanted to or not. It was the best place I'd ever lived. Because it was mine. Earned. Not inherited, not financed beyond my means, not part of some image I was trying to project. Just 4 walls and a door that locked. I furnished it from Goodwill and Craigslist. A mattress on the floor. A folding table. 2 chairs. A lamp. That was it. I didn't need more. The warehouse job became something else after 3 months. Luis promoted me to shift lead. Not because I was exceptional, but because I showed up. Every night. On time. Sober. Reliable. That's rarer than you'd think, Luis said when he told me. The job still hurt. My back still ached. But I'd gotten stronger. Leaner. My hands were calloused. My shoulders broader. I caught my reflection in a window one day and didn't recognize myself. The soft, office body Marcus was gone. This version looked like someone who'd survived something. I started seeing Emma and Daniel every other weekend, supervised at first by Rachel's sister. The kids were careful around me. Polite. Like I was a distant relative they had to be nice to. Daniel barely spoke. He'd sit and color or play on a tablet while I made awkward small talk with him. Emma asked the hard questions. Did you really ruin that guy's life, Dad? We were at a park. March. Rain threatening, but holding off. She was on a swing, not swinging, just sitting. Yeah, I said. I did. Why? I could have softened it. Made excuses. But Emma deserved the truth. Because I was angry at my own life, and I took it out on someone weaker. Because I was a coward who blamed everyone else for my problems. She was quiet for a long time. Mom says you're different now. She said that. Not to me. To Aunt Jennifer. I heard them talking. My heart did something complicated. What else did she say? Emma looked at me with those 2 old eyes. She said she doesn't know if different is enough. That hurt more than it should have. But it was fair. It might not be, I admitted. But it's all I've got, Em. She started swinging then. Slow at first, then higher. I miss our house. Me too. But I don't miss how quiet it was. How you and Mom didn't talk. Jesus. Kids see everything. I'm sorry you had to grow up watching that. Are you gonna fix it? I don't know if I can. She jumped off the swing at the top of the arc, landed hard, stumbled, but caught herself. Turned back to me with a small, sad smile. At least you're honest now. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was something. Work changed again in month 5. The warehouse manager, a guy named Jim who'd ignored me for months, called me into his office. You got any college? He asked. Yeah. Business degree. Why? We're opening a new distribution center in Hillsborough. Need someone to help set up logistics, train the team, manage inventory systems. It's salary. $45,000 to start. Benefits. Normal hours. I stared at him. Why me? Luis says you're the most reliable person he's ever worked with. Says you show up when you're sick, cover shifts without complaining, and the crew respects you. That's worth more than a fancy resume. $45,000. It was $30,000 less than I'd made before. But it felt like $1 million. I'll take it. You don't want to negotiate? No. I'll take it. Jim smiled. Start Monday. I called Rachel that night. First time I'd called in months. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. Hey, it's me. I got a real job. Not much, but it's something. I'm getting an apartment with 2 bedrooms soon. For when the kids visit. I'm trying, Rachel. I know it might not matter to you anymore, but I wanted you to know. She texted back an hour later. That's good, Marcus. Really? 3 words. But they felt like absolution. I kept working, kept saving. Started therapy, $15 sessions at a community clinic with a grad student named Maya who was younger than me, but somehow wiser. You're doing the work, she said during our 8th session. Most people never get here. Where's here? Accountability. Most people spend their whole lives blaming everyone else. I ran into someone from my old job at a grocery store. Sandra from accounting. She saw me, and I watched her face go through a whole journey: recognition, awkwardness, pity, then something else. Marcus? Wow. You look different. I am different. I heard about everything. I'm sorry. Don't be. I earned it. She blinked, surprised. That's not what I expected you to say. Yeah, me neither. She smiled. Actually smiled. Good for you. It was a small moment, but it mattered. I wasn't the old Marcus anymore. That version had burned up in the fire. This version? He was still figuring himself out. But for the first time in 38 years, I was actually trying to be someone worth knowing. 8 months after the fire, Jason Chen came back. I was leaving my apartment building on a Saturday morning, heading to pick up Emma and Daniel for our first unsupervised visit. Rachel had finally agreed. Progress felt fragile but real. He was standing next to a beat-up Honda Civic across the street. Thinner than I remembered. Hollow-eyed. The kind of thin that comes from things other than diet and exercise. Our eyes met. I froze. For a moment, I thought about running. Getting in my car, driving away, calling the police. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the fact that I'd paid for his rehab. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just exhaustion. I crossed the street. Jason. Marcus. His voice was rough. And used. I figured you'd call the cops. I dropped the charges months ago. He blinked. Why? Because you were right. I deserved it. We stood there in the morning cold. March in Portland meant rain and wind and gray skies that never quite broke. A bus hissed past. Someone's dog barked. I came to apologize, Jason said finally. That caught me off guard. You came to apologize? You burned down my house. I know. I wasn't in my right mind. The rehab helped me see. He stopped. Laughed bitterly. This is fucked up, right? Me apologizing to you. Pretty fucked up. I heard what you did. The money. For the rehab. His voice cracked. Why would you do that? I thought about lying. Making it sound noble. But we were past that. Because I ruined your life and I couldn't live with it anymore. The money wasn't for you. It was for me. So I could sleep at night. Jason nodded slowly. At least you're honest. Only recently. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes. Offered me one. I shook my head. He lit one for himself, hands shaking. I wanted you to suffer, he said, smoke curling from his lips. I wanted you to lose everything like I did. Your job, your family, your home. I wanted you to know what it felt like. Mission accomplished. But it didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse. He stopped. Looked away. I almost didn't make it, Marcus. The guilt. The anger. All of it. I knew what he meant. Your brother told me. About the pills. Yeah. He took a long drag. That was before the fire. After, it got even worse. I wanted to die. Genuinely. Until someone paid for that rehab facility. Best place I'd ever been. They actually gave a shit. And I kept thinking, who would do this? Who would spend that kind of money on me? Did they tell you? No. But I figured it out. Only one person felt guilty enough. Desperate enough. He looked at me. It was you, wasn't it? I nodded. Jesus Christ. He laughed again, that same broken sound. We're a pair of fucked up people, aren't we? Yeah, we are. Jason flicked ash onto the pavement. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm trying to make amends. That's what they teach you. Step 9. Make direct amends wherever possible. Consider them made. Just like that. Just like that. He studied me for a long moment. You really are different. Derek said you were, but I didn't believe him. Derek talks to you? Every week. He's the one who stayed, who didn't give up. Jason's voice went soft. I don't deserve him either. None of us deserve the good people in our lives. We just have to try to earn them every day. Jason nodded, finished his cigarette, ground it under his heel. I'm leaving Portland, he said. Moving to Sacramento. Fresh start. My sponsor helped me get a job in a warehouse down there. Nothing fancy, but it's something. That's good. I won't bother you again. I just needed to say. He trailed off. I needed to say I'm sorry. For what I did. For almost killing your family. For Jason. I cut him off. We both destroyed each other. And we both survived. Let's just be done. He extended his hand. It hung in the air between us. I looked at it. This hand that had poured gasoline. That had struck the match. That had tried to erase me. I shook it. Good luck, Jason. You too, Marcus. He walked back to his car. Got in. Drove away. And I stood there on that cold Portland morning, watching him disappear, feeling something I hadn't expected. Not forgiveness. Not exactly. But release. The anger I'd been carrying toward him, toward myself, toward the universe, it loosened its grip. Just a little. Just enough to breathe. I checked my watch. Time to get the kids. I got in my car and drove toward the future. Not the one I'd planned. Not the one I'd wanted. But the one I'd earned. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The real victory didn't come with Jason's apology. It came 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday night that felt like any other. I was in my apartment, the new one, the 2-bedroom I'd scraped together enough for making dinner. Nothing fancy. Chicken, rice, frozen vegetables. The kind of meal that kept you alive without pretending to be anything more. Emma and Daniel were with me for a midweek visit. Rachel had agreed to it. Another small step forward. Daniel was doing homework at the folding table. Emma was on her phone, half watching some show I didn't understand. The radiator clanked. The neighbor's TV was too loud. Everything was ordinary and imperfect and real. And I realized something that hit me like a physical weight. I was happy. Not the fake happiness I'd convinced myself I had before. Not the comfortable numbness of a life on autopilot. But actual, genuine contentment. I had almost nothing. A cheap apartment. A modest job. A family that was broken and might never be whole again. Debt I was slowly climbing out of. A reputation that would never fully recover. But I was happy. Because for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't pretending to be someone I wasn't. Dad, Daniel's voice pulled me back. Yeah, buddy. Can you help me with this math problem? I sat down next to him. Looked at his worksheet. 4th grade division. I'd forgotten how simple these problems were. How complicated they seemed when you were 9. Okay, I said. Show me what you've got so far. He walked me through his thinking. Got stuck. I helped him see it differently. His face lit up when he understood. Oh, I get it now. That moment. That simple, ordinary moment of my son understanding something, it meant more than any promotion, any raise, any version of success I'd chased before. Emma glanced over. You're actually pretty good at that. I'm good at a lot of things when I pay attention. She raised an eyebrow. That's new. Yeah, it is. Later, after I'd tucked Daniel into the sleeping bag on the floor of what I called their room, still mostly empty except for a couple of toys and books, Emma lingered in the doorway. This place is pretty small, she said. Yeah, it is. But it feels better than our old house. I looked at her. How do you mean? I don't know. Like, someone actually lives here. Not just exists. Jesus. When did she get so wise? Come here, I said. She walked over. I pulled her into a hug. She let me. Didn't pull away after 2 seconds like she'd been doing for months. I'm proud of you, Em. You know that? For what? For being strong when everything fell apart. For being honest with me even when it hurt. For giving me another chance I probably don't deserve. She was quiet against my shoulder. Then, Mom says you're trying. That's what matters. She said that. Yeah, last week. She was talking to Aunt Jennifer again. I wasn't supposed to hear, but I did. What else did she say? Emma pulled back. Looked at me with those eyes that saw everything. She said she doesn't know if you two can fix things. But she said she doesn't hate you anymore. That you're becoming someone she can respect, even if you can't be together. It should have hurt. The idea that Rachel and I might never reconcile. But instead, I felt something else. Peace. Because she was right. We might not be able to fix us. But I could fix me. And that was enough. You know what I learned through all this? I said to Emma. What? That the person you are when everything's easy doesn't matter. What matters is who you become when everything's hard. When you lose everything and have to build yourself back up from nothing. Is that from therapy? I laughed. Yeah, my therapist, Maya, she said something like that. Smart lady. You should keep seeing her. I plan to. Emma nodded. Good. Because you're better now, Dad. Like, actually better. Not perfect. But better. Not perfect. But better. Those 4 words became my mantra. The thing I told myself every morning when I woke up in that small apartment. Every night when I came home from work tired and aching. Every time I sent child support to Rachel. Every time I saw my kids and had to navigate the complicated grief of being a part-time father. Not perfect. But better. I didn't need Jason's forgiveness. I didn't need Rachel's love. I didn't need my old job or my old house or my old life. I needed to be someone my kids could look at and see growth. See accountability. See a man who fucked up and then did the hard work to become less fucked up. That night, after Emma went to bed, I sat on my balcony, barely big enough for one chair, and looked out at the Portland skyline. The lights blurred in the mist. The city hummed with life. A year ago, I'd had everything and felt empty. Now I had almost nothing and felt full. The fire didn't destroy me. It revealed me. And what it revealed was ugly and small and cruel. But that revelation was the most important thing that ever happened to me. Because you can't fix what you refuse to see. I finally saw myself. Really saw myself. And I chose to be better. 2 years after the fire, I stood in a different apartment. A better one. Still modest, but with actual furniture. A couch I'd saved 3 months for. A kitchen table that didn't fold. Pictures on the walls, mostly of Emma and Daniel, some of them even smiling with me in the frame. Progress looks different than you'd expect. It's not dramatic. It's not a montage with inspiring music. It's just incremental. One day slightly better than the last. The job in Hillsborough had turned into something more. I'd become the operations manager for the entire Pacific Northwest region. Not because I was brilliant, but because I showed up, did the work, and gave a shit about the people under me. $62,000 a year now. Benefits. A 401k I was actually contributing to. I'd never make what I made before. But I didn't want to. That money had come from a version of myself I didn't want to be. Emma was 14 now. High school. She video called me 3 times a week, usually to complain about teachers or drama with friends. Normal kid stuff. The kind of stuff I'd missed when I was too busy pretending to have my life together. Daniel was 11. Still quiet, but opening up more. He'd started telling me about his interests, marine biology, apparently. Kid wanted to study whales. I'd bought him 3 books about orcas for his birthday. He'd read them all in a week. Rachel and I had finalized the divorce 8 months ago. It was cordial. Sad, but not bitter. We'd both mourned what we'd lost, and we'd both accepted that some things can't be rebuilt, they can only be released. She'd started dating someone. A teacher named Paul. I'd met him once when I picked up the kids. He seemed decent. Kind. The type who asked questions and listened to the answers. Good for her. It hurt less than I expected. I was seeing someone too. Nothing serious yet. Her name was Nicole. She worked at the coffee shop near my office. Single mom, 2 kids of her own. We'd gone on 4 dates. Moved slow. Both of us had enough scar tissue to know better than to rush. You're different than most guys I meet, she'd said on our 3rd date. How so? You actually talk about your failures. Most men just perform success. I don't have much success to perform. She'd smiled. That's what makes you interesting. I'd told her about the fire. About Jason. About what I'd done to earn it all. She'd listened without judgment, without trying to fix it or minimize it. We're all just trying to be better than we were, she'd said. That's all any of us can do. I thought about Derekchan sometimes. Wondered if he was okay. If Jason was still in Sacramento, still sober, still fighting. I hope so. But I didn't reach out. Some distances are necessary. Luis from the warehouse had become something like a friend. We got drinks once a month. He'd been promoted to regional trainer. We'd laugh about the early days, when I'd shown up in the middle of the night smelling like a house fire and desperation. You looked like hell, he'd said last time we met. I felt like hell. And now? Now I feel like someone who survived hell. There's a difference. Tyler had gotten his life together too, in his own way. Met someone online. Moved in with her. We still texted, but less frequently. That was okay. Sometimes people are meant to be anchors for specific storms, not permanent fixtures. My therapist Maya had graduated and moved to Seattle for her postdoc. Before she left, she told me something I thought about often. You came in here broken and ashamed. You're leaving whole and accountable. Most people never make that journey. What's the difference? I'd asked. Broken people blame the world. Whole people take responsibility for their part in it. You did the work, Marcus. Keep doing it. I still went to therapy. New therapist now. Guy named Robert. Former addict, 20 years sober. He understood the long, unglamorous road of becoming someone you're not ashamed of. The fire investigation had officially closed. Jason was never charged, not enough evidence, and I'd refused to cooperate. The insurance company had settled. The case was over. But the healing wasn't. Probably never would be completely. Some nights I still woke up smelling smoke. Still felt the phantom heat of that doorknob. Still heard Rachel's voice asking, "What did you do?" But those nights were fewer now. And when they came, I didn't reach for a bottle. I didn't spiral. I just sat with the discomfort and reminded myself, you're not that person anymore. Last weekend, Emma had asked me something while we were grabbing lunch. Dad, do you regret it? The fire, I mean. Everything that happened. I'd thought about it. Really thought. I regret what I did to Jason. I regret the years I wasted being angry and small. I regret the marriage I let die through neglect. But I don't regret where it led me. Because I'm a better father now. A better person. I had to lose everything to figure out what actually mattered. She'd nodded. That's kind of sad and kind of beautiful at the same time. Yeah, that's life, I guess. 2 years after the fire, I wasn't rich. Wasn't successful by conventional standards. Wasn't living the dream. But I was living honestly. And that was worth more than everything I'd lost. If you've made it this far, thank you. Really. I know this wasn't an easy story to hear. It wasn't an easy story to live, and it sure as hell wasn't easy to tell. But I needed to tell it. Because I think somewhere out there, someone needs to hear it. Maybe you're that person who made a mistake that cost someone else everything. Maybe you're carrying guilt so heavy you can barely stand. Maybe you've convinced yourself you're beyond redemption, that the damage you've done is permanent and unforgivable. I want you to hear this. You're not beyond redemption. But redemption isn't what you think it is. It's not about being forgiven by the people you hurt. Some of them will never forgive you, and that's their right. Jason might never fully forgive me. Rachel might always carry the weight of what our marriage became. My kids might always have that small scar of remembering when their dad was someone else. Redemption is about becoming someone who wouldn't make that same mistake again. It's about looking at yourself, really looking past all the excuses and justifications and choosing to be better. Not perfect, just better. Here's what I learned in the 2 years since I lost everything. Rock bottom isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Staying there is. When the fire took my house, my family, my job, my reputation, I had a choice. I could have blamed Jason, blamed Rachel, blamed the universe. I could have drowned in bitterness and self-pity and spent the rest of my life as a cautionary tale. Or I could own it. Every bit of it. The cruelty I'd shown Jason. The neglect I'd shown my family. The cowardice I'd shown myself. Ownership is terrifying. Because once you admit your role in your own destruction, you can't hide anymore. You have to face what you've become. But that's also where freedom lives. The people who save you aren't always the ones you expect. I thought I needed my old life back. My old job, my old house, my old marriage. I thought that was the path to redemption. But the people who actually saved me? Luis, who gave me a chance when I was nobody. Tyler, who let me crash in his basement without judgment. Brenda at the temp agency, who saw through my bullshit. Maya, my therapist, who held up a mirror when I wanted to look away. Derek, who told me the truth even though it destroyed me. Jason, who came back to apologize when he could have just disappeared. Even Rachel, especially Rachel, who loved me enough to let me go. To stop enabling the version of me that was slowly dying. To give me space to become someone new. Hope doesn't come from the places you're looking. It comes from the places you've ignored. Your worst moment doesn't have to define you, but how you respond to it will. I destroyed a young man's career out of bitterness and spite. That's not metaphor. That's fact. And I have to live with that forever. But I also paid for his rehabilitation. Showed up for my kids even when it was awkward and painful. Worked night shifts in a warehouse when I could have declared bankruptcy and given up. Went to therapy every week for 2 years. Told the truth even when lies would have been easier. Those things don't erase what I did. But they matter. They mean something. You are not the sum of your worst decisions. You're the sum of what you do after you make them. And here's the most important thing I learned. Healing isn't linear. It's messy. Some days I feel like I've got it figured out. Other days I wake up and the shame hits me like a freight train. I see my kids and remember I'm the reason they don't have an intact family. I think about Jason and wonder if he's okay, if he's still sober, if my money actually helped or just postponed the inevitable. But I keep going, because that's all any of us can do. Keep going. Keep trying. Keep choosing to be better. So if you're in that place right now, if you've lost everything, if you've hurt people you love, if you're standing in the ashes of your own life wondering if there's any point in rebuilding, I want you to know there is. It won't look like you think it should. It won't be easy. You won't get everything back, and some things are gone forever. But you can build something new, something honest, something real. You can become someone you're not ashamed of. I did, and I was about as low as you can get. Now I want to hear from you. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of your own journey or gave you hope when you needed it, do me a favor. Comment below, what was the moment you chose to be better? When did you stop running from yourself and start facing who you'd become? And if you're not there yet, that's okay too. Just knowing you need to change is the first step. If this story meant something to you, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. I'm going to keep telling real stories about real people who survived real shit. No fairy tales. No easy answers. Just the messy, complicated truth of what it means to rebuild yourself. And drop suggestions in the comments for what stories you want to hear next. What struggles do you want to see someone work through? What hard truths do you need to hear? This is just the beginning. For me, for you, for all of us trying to be better than we were. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for not giving up. Neither will I.